And gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the Nanyang Championship Season 2. We're going to be taking a look at a match here between Newbee and the Wings Gaming. I'm Lyrical, joined as well by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. Sir, how you doing? You excited about this matchup here?
I'm doing very well, and I am very happy to be here. I think Newbee versus Wings is probably the one match that I really wanted to make sure I caught live from Nanyang when we saw the brackets, and I'm very happy to be here casting it.
Absolutely. It's a little bit early in the morning for both of us here. I think it's 5 for you. It's 2 for me.
That's right.
We're watching it from across the world, and hopefully there's not too much lag, but certainly we're going to be watching out for some great Dota 2. And already looking at it, the Newbie side ends up banning out the Drow Ranger, as well as the Faceless Void taking Elder Titan for themselves, and Wings Gaming opting to take the Lion, Chuan, sort of infamous for that hero, as well as the Life Stealer, which Hao has been running pretty much whenever he gets an opportunity to.
Yeah, so that's an...
Oh my god. The Wings! What are you doing? You're crazy. Every time. They blow my mind every time.
I just got booted off the server, so I'm waiting to catch back up to what you just got. Okay. Alright, so we got an Ogre Magi here, a Bat Rider. That's an interesting combo. Elder Titan with Terrorblade coming out from Newbee. The Terrorblade, something that Newbee have been liking a lot as it's coming out in force in China as well here. Both the teams really doing a very good job of targeting specific bans from their opponents. So,
well, it's tough. I feel like that you sort of have. You know what? I'm gonna make a little bit of an analogy here. We're gonna do this. It's sort of the yin and yang of China, if you think about it. You've got Newbee, which to me feels like it's all about order. It's about trying to, have the laning stage, get whatever they want out of it, and then they exert their will over their opponents by just good, solid gameplay, all on the same page. A lot of heroes rotate in towards the mid lane and respond, and it feels as if they move as one. And then Wings Gaming is that chaos. It's the craziness with their drafts, and it always ends up working out for them more often than not, but it definitely feels like this is the two sides of Chinese Dota, and it's why I think everybody's been really excited about this game.
Yeah, the other thing with Wings Gaming as compared to Newbee is that they really do very much love to just put a lot of their pressure into the mid game. They love to make sure that their laning phase just kind of snowballs directly into some sort of favorable advantage, whereas Newbee do a much more aggressive scaling strategy where they do pick up heroes like the Terrorblade that apply pressure through the laning phase and into the mid game, but don't really become that force to be reckoned with until 2 or 3 items really start to stack up, and that's when you really start to see Newbee become this indomitable force across the map. So I think, especially with the Bat Rider and the Ogre Magi already in tow, the question is, how quickly do Wings Gaming get out of the laning phase and into that aggressive stage? Do they get there fast enough to shut the Terrorblade down and to throw Newbee off their pace? Or is Newbee going to be allowed to hit their offside cores into the mid-game and then work that Terrorblade as that mid-game develops?
Yeah, that's sort of a big question mark, and you can see that already they're banning out a couple of those heroes that do cause those issues. The Drow Ranger, like we talked about already, also the Lycan going to be taken out of the pool, and now Newbee with this next ban going to have to think about what they want to go for. I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see a Wings Huskar draft eventually, or is one of those other like strong, just very core right-clicking heroes. The Ogre Magi Bloodlust, it feels like that's a large reason that you end up taking it, but for now at least, they're just going to be taking the Shadow Demon for themselves, kind of in good answer to the Terrorblade, and something that's maybe a bit of a deny pick as well. While Newbee opt to ban out the Silencer.
They could go for a core Mirana here as well with Wings. They have a lot of ways to set up the arrow. It gives them a fair amount of split push and farm. The Ags is decent up against dealing with illusion push. And obviously the synergy with the disruption is pretty staggering. Oracle, a very strong classic pick up against the Bat Rider. You're able to just counter him out so well with that hero.
Yeah, and also if they wanted to, you could end up seeing Newbee go back for something like a Death Prophet also. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Moo has been known to be running some of those other, like, you think about a Invoker or one of those other types of heroes that scales incredibly well into the late stages, and you can do that to some extent with DP, but maybe if they have the Oracle already on deck, you try and build around that as well. But Wings right now with their 4th pick, It doesn't really feel like it feels as if there's a strategy that the Wings have in mind that they haven't revealed as of yet, and it feels like the Ogre Magi. You don't just casually pick that up second. There has to be something here that they're hoping to get out of it.
Yeah, so it would pair up pretty well with a Juggernaut pick, which is something that I know Wings like to run, and it does hit that very high aggression mid-game strategy that we know Wings prefer. Out of the heroes that are still in the pool, that's the one that really jumps out most to me. If they were able to roll with a Drow Ranger or with a Faceless Void, obviously those would be pretty good picks to pair up as well with the control that the Ogre Magi provides as well as the Bloodlust. They're going to go with a Medusa. That's not a super common Wings gaming pick, but it is something they've been toying with this patch.
Yeah, and it sort of fits within the ethos of what you're talking about right there as well. Get the Bloodlust to boost her up. Obviously not going to be able to give you a ton of damage, but it means that you're going to take those right clicks all the more often. So kind of a cool little thing there. I would imagine that that's a large part of the reason they ended up taking it. I don't know. It still does feel, though, like with the reflection that you can throw out from Terrorblade, as they're trying to make anything happen with a Medusa, even a slow siege, you're going to end up running into an issue where the creep wave is just going to end up getting killed by the Medusa illusion, I would imagine.
Yeah, the other issue that you kind of run into, Terrorblade started to become popular as a counter to Medusa and the high strength cores that you had. Medusa being a very interesting pick there because you do have the Stone Gaze and the Split Shot in order to deal with the Terrorblade illusions, but Sunder is an extremely hard counter to Medusa. It just ignores Mana Shield, and you're able to get the Terrorblade low and make the Medusa killable in situations where she otherwise wouldn't be. So they do need to be careful about that. Now, this is also interesting. This looks like it's going to be an Iron Talon pseudo-jungle Night Stalker, which means barring an aggressive tri-lane, which I'm not seeing as very likely out of Newbee here, this Medusa, if it is a farming Medusa, is going to have relative free farm.
Yeah, definitely. This was something that we saw just the other day out of Newbee where they were playing against LGD and they ran KP semi-jungling, and then at the 4-minute mark, that's when he came back into the offlane as the Night Stalker and was able to do a nice little bit of damage. I think he was up against a Morphling in that game, if I'm not mistaken, so came into lane with about level 4, almost level 5, and then he was able to sustain in that offlane. So I think it's okay against these heroes like a Medusa or like a Morphling who don't really do a lot with the first little bit of CS, and then you can come in and try and shut them down after that 4-minute mark with a rotation from maybe the ET and the Oracle. So I kind of like that as a response, because it's not like a Terrorblade or something where the Medusa is going to be able to take down the tower if you leave her alone for 4 minutes.
Right. I mean, she'll be able to chip away at it, but you're very right. She is just not that level of innate push that stage in the game. The nice thing is she should, at least in theory, have greater effective hit points, have greater overall area of effect splash damage, have greater fight control, and generally just carry better into the later portions of the game. So do Newbee pick up another pusher? Do they pick up like an Alchemist mid here, or do you think they're going to go back for that Dragon Knight or Death Prophet that you were talking about, something that gives them the push?
I like the Alch better, I think, what you're talking about. It feels like a Moo hero.
Yeah. I've been thinking the Alchemist too, partially because it fits up very well with the Oracle, right? You've got the natural synergy with False Promise and the regen that comes out of Alchemist's ultimate. Alchemist fares, and there it is. He does fare pretty well into Medusa as well.
Yeah, that's nice. Wings need to come out with something a little bit awkward here, and I don't know what exactly it is. Because you're not going to really be able to... I don't expect that KP is going to be going to the lane at all. So Shadow Demon and Ogre, they are going to be able to maybe roam in and try and mess with the Alch a little bit. But ET maybe can counter that out as well with an Echo Stomp to turn the tide of a battle there. So I don't know exactly what they go for here. I mean, in the mid lane, somebody to kill off Alch, do they go DP themselves? That seems so weird. I don't know. It feels like their draft for Wings is all over the place here.
Yeah, it still feels like a mid-core Mirana could work here. It synergizes well with their team. It gives them some additional tower siege and positioning into the mid game. Alternatively, they need to pick up something that pushes really hard to create some 4 protect 1 space for the Medusa.
They might go,
one of those two things needs to happen.
They could go Warlock. That's something that we've seen them go is for the core lock there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
if
they're
that's
the
great,
only
though.
team experimenting with that, I think, in China right now. But they have done it several times, like half a dozen times probably, at least in the last 3 or 4 weeks. They're going to go with a tiny.
All right.
Okay. I don't hate it. It's not what I expected, obviously, enough.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of an odd one, but it does also sort of fit in with some of the stuff that we were talking about. It's Bloodlust is pretty good with him, and I don't know. We'll see how this ends up going. I'm struggling a little bit with my second monitor here. Don't worry, guys. We're going to make it all work. There's the overlay switch that I'm sure everybody was waiting for, and Dota 2 is getting ready to play here. Nanyang Season 2... It's a little bit of an odd one from Wings Gaming. Shadow is hopefully going to have a decent time on it. I'm assuming that means this is going to be a mid-Medusa facing off against the Alchemist. Who do you favor going into this?
I do like Wings here. I think their draft is a little more creative. I do think that they have some good responses. And for me, it's just a question of, do Wings hit their windows or not? If Newbee are able to get into the laning phase really well and just scale from there, then they should be able to walk this through by about 35 or 40 minutes. But otherwise, I think Wings have a lot more insurance policies. Oh boy, Innocence up top.
Yeah, he actually ran to Chuan, and Faith Beyond is going to be here. They might be able to find a kill. Is he hit blocked in? He's stuck. He's in the pain trade. Oh no, Chuan. He only has a ward. He doesn't have any tangos, and he's going to fall. Oh, first blood go in the way of Innocence. What have you done, Chuan? Get out of those woods.
That is not the way to start off with that great scaling laning phase that we were talking about Newbie needing. Right? It's just a first blood. It's, not the end of the world, but really, really not where you want. And now, unfortunately, that's also forced Schwan to buy out, right? So he had been saving up. He ends up dying because he hadn't bought out in the Fountain in the first place, but now he had to end up using that gold in early items.
Don't know exactly what all was said there, but good stuff, good thoughts, and it looks like they are going to be able to get that bounty rune for Moo. I'm gonna break from what you're saying, and I'm gonna kind of take the Newbie approach here. I think that they're gonna end up being able to build up a nice little lead here from Newbee Moo at the start of this game, and eventually with the Iron Talon Night Stalker getting a good bit of levels out of this laning stage, I think that they're going to be able to take it. And also, just late game, I kind of like their lineup better against what Wings is throwing. I don't know how much this Tiny is going to do, but certainly it could go either way, and it's probably going to come down a lot to execution, which is what you want to see in these types of games.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that we need to consider, too, is when you're looking at these teams, right, these are teams that split pretty effectively. Over the last 3 months, you're talking a 5-2 split in favor of Wings Gaming, but Newbee are higher ranked right now. They've been outperforming Wings indirectly in a lot of events. So not only do the drafts kind of break potentially either way, but the teams themselves kind of break either way. This is why I was excited about this match potentially out of all the pairings that we could have seen here at Nanyang.
Well, when you talk about also the indirect type of things, because they're Newbie able to beat Wings, the people that Wings have lost to, or other stuff like that, it's kind of, I feel like Wings play to the level of the opponents that they're going up against. When they're going up against people that are like a lower quality team, they sometimes can end up getting upset. You never bet on Wings if it's a low tier game, because they're known for experimenting. But likewise, when they're playing against really the high-level opponents, they're going to be able to kind of run over them. So we'll see how they end up doing in this one, and I expect it to go to 3 games. Sean just going to keep on trading a couple of hits here with Innocence. The dual aggressive offlane with the Bat Rider and the Ogre, it hasn't really completely worked out as of yet. Do you think that we're going to end up seeing drums on him eventually and trying to just maybe make some type of plays against Hao?
You mean on Innocence here?
Yeah.
Yeah, That's certainly a possibility. I think. Oh,
in a little bit of trouble.
the courier, yeah, is going to die mid.
They
Ice just literally walks up and kills it without any concerns. I'm not sure. Maybe there was some mismicro there by Moo, because that courier was sitting out there for a little while.
I happened to miss that one, so T-Tours abound. Wonderful stuff, and now looking for the catch onto Faith Beyond is how is going to be here. Pop's Metamorphosis and the really long Fortune's End. It's going to be a kill. ET takes it for himself, and that should give him his boots now picked up by Chuan.
Yeah, so the issue with an Ogre Magi in a dual offlane is that he's able to kind of walk up and trade hits, right, because of his natural high armor and natural regen, but he doesn't really provide a lot of opportunity to kill secure, especially into an Oracle. You do have to be kind of careful with him. He doesn't have someplace better to be, because if he goes to the bottom lane, he's just going to be soaking experience that the Tiny could be getting solo, basically. And there's not any kill potential here on the mid lane, really. So the Ogre Magi pick for this stage in the game really is kind of unceremoniously hazardous for the laning equilibrium of Wings. But once they get into the mid game and that Tiny and Medusa are ready to start kind of sieging towers, that's when I think we'll start to see some value out of the Ogre Magi.
It's kind of weird, though, as I'm looking at the way that they've itemized here, too. Like, it just feels like they want to try and keep this lane pushed against Newbee a little bit. You've got the Bassi ring that's consistently turned on for Faith Beyond, and Ogre's been roaming around towards this mid lane to try and secure runes for Blink, while also stacking up the camp. So there's pieces of this that feel pretty strong, and this is going to end up being a 3-stack now for Innocence. I'm liking what we're seeing so far. It does feel like just with this naturally high armor heroes, they're able to get away. I mean, only one death on Faith Beyond, and this is a scary lane that they're up against, as we are going to have a combo. KP comes in, and with the Stomp, the Void, and everything else thrown out, that's definitely going to be a kill.
That was really nice execution by Newbee, and honestly, maybe even something that Wings could have seen coming. With that first Nightfall, you know KP is Iron Talon in the jungle, so logically speaking, he's probably going to go into that top lane coming around. There was even a ward to provide vision down here off the mid lane, so you know you would see him coming if he were moving in onto the mid lane. And so if you don't see the Night Stalker coming right off the end of that first night, he's probably rotating into your top from the jungle. Either way, Wings giving up another kill in this top lane and letting this Terrorblade kind of get out of control. That's the exact opposite of what you need if you're trying to shut down Newbee's role into that mid lane, or excuse me, that mid game strategy.
They're trying to keep him back for the moment. Innocence still caught out there, and Batrider unfortunately was trying to stack up the sticky napalm and has to re-ghost on that as the tier 1 tower is falling over here to the side. Ice going to throw out a couple more of those Shadow Poison stacks. Something you need to be prepared for, but the whole time through, Tiny getting free farm and also able to bring down that tier 1 tower in the bottom lane himself a little ways. Oh my god,
yeah. Okay.
Does a little something there.
He gives up the ghost on that one. That would have been a pretty dangerous kill to try and take for Moo. There's a decent possibility that he could have gotten that, but there's also a decent possibility he could have been bursted down. So he's going to rotate around on to Shadow, who's now got an invis, though.
Worth noting, Faith Beyond did finish that stack right there, so that is level 5 for him online, and also he's caught up pretty significantly, almost on even farm with the Terrorblade, and this is going to continue, I'd imagine. I actually wouldn't mind him seeing Faith, the Batrider, go for drums in this game if he wanted to, and just allow him to hold that tier 1 tower a little bit longer.
Yeah, that I wouldn't. I think if you're going to have somebody kind of rush those out, probably put it on the Ogre Magi. You wouldn't get in time to defend the tower, but that tower is going to go down one way or the other. And really, in terms of overall map control in the game, the Radiant offlane tower is the least valuable tower anyway. So I think Wings Gaming are pretty happy taking an opponent's Roshan anchor and trading the Radiant offlane tower for it.
Yeah. That's definitely true, and they're going to be moving in again for this one. You've got the Batrider and Ice just trying to keep them back for the moment. Don't want to end up getting caught with the Stomp there. Level 6 almost online for Faith on this Bat. They can keep him there for the moment, and now going to dive a little bit forward. How controlled for the moment, and a lot of damage coming out. Fate's Edict is going to keep him alive, but How is going to end up falling. So Terrorblade dies, and now also going to be able to go after Kaka. Nice stomp, keeping that Oracle all healthy.
Yeah, unfortunately, they were aggressing, by they I mean Newbee, aggressing very heavily before Terrorblade hit 6. And if you've been watching, you know, Newbee kind of played this Terrorblade specifically, they really, really like to aggress on that tier 1 tower very early with him and force out rotations by grouping up 4 or 5 heroes, right, in the safe lane alongside that Terrorblade to absolutely be sure they grab that tier 1 tower before the 8-minute mark. But Wings kind of read that situation very effectively and realized that you've got 4 or 5 heroes up there from your opponents. You can let Medusa free farm in the mid lane, rotate everybody else up. It doesn't really matter. The Tiny will eventually find his farm because he flash farms really effectively and force out some sort of a negative engagement for Newbee.
Well, and you can see right here that KP under a little bit of duress, but with the Alchemist coming in, didn't realize that's where he was going to go. They turn this back around with a little help from that Satyr even. They end up being able to bring down the Batrider. So a whole heck of a lot of gold on deck from him, and that ends up getting a transition into Newbee finding another kill.
Yeah, the Batrider pick just is not necessarily panning out here, but I don't know that there's another hero that Wings could have that was not banned out that would have... Oh, no deny there from Ice Ice. Actually,
Ice is going to end up going and turning onto this, and with Shadow jumping in, they find a quick and easy one onto How again. Tiny made it happen. Almost as his blink, too.
Yeah, this is going to be very dangerous, very fast for Newbee. I think at full health, maybe the Night Stalker is going to be able to get away from Tiny Blink, and with the ultimate, Alchemist may be able to get away from Tiny Blink, but the rest of Newbee, if a sub 10-minute Blink Dagger comes out on Tiny and he has the mana to combo, that's just a death.
Yeah, that's a problem, and you gotta be able to deal with that somehow.
He's actually going to go into the Shadow Blade.
Huh.
It looks like. So, that's a really weird choice. You know that your opponent Night Stalker is going to end up going into the later Midas and then go into the Ags Gem. So your Shadow Blade is not going to be a good initiation tool later on in the game, whereas the Blink still would be.
Yeah.
You do have the ability to get some more stats out of it and move into that break mechanic a little bit later on.
Yeah.
And that's really important against the Elder Titan's natural order. But otherwise, I'm not seeing a lot of vital abilities, just passives for Tiny to break, right?
Well, I guess the one thing that kind of is interesting about this is that you talk about the reduced vision. That is something that's going to happen, and maybe they're thinking that they're not going to be able to find an initiation with the Blink anyways, because they won't have that vision as we see a smoke behind enemy lines. I think that was scouted, and the scan is going to also reveal them, so probably not going to be able to find anything with this. The only other thing that I could think about is...
well, Medusa's staying pretty far forward, actually. They did catch that scan, right?
I would assume so. Blink is now caught, and I don't know if they can kill her, though. Alchemist is going to come on in. They have the Void available. There's the stun, and yeah, they're out. They're not going to be able to get her.
They're actually going to have the re-engage here. Shadows reveal on the Blade.
All right, a lot of damage coming out, but also they're stomped up, and there's the defensive or aggressive disruption, just trying to make something happen with this, and Ice Ice going to be controlled. Nobody dead outside the Oracle as of yet. How dropping low in the midst of all of that fire, and Moo now also going to drop. They throw Innocence forward. KP trying to run away, and the stomp is going to connect onto 2, but with 5 heroes mid from Wings, and Shadow getting hasted up, that's going to be a dead KP. 3 going down. Triple for Shadow, and my god, this is a scary situation indeed.
Yeah, so we didn't actually mention this, but the Shadow Blade with the Bloodlust is actually really effective too. The extra movement speed makes it so that the Shadow's able to hunt people down pretty effectively. So, yeah, this is what I was talking about kind of when we were talking about the draft and saying Wings like to get very aggressive immediately as that laning phase collapses. They like to start moving on to kills and towers. Kaka is going to be pulled down into the pit, it looks like. Not quite there, just beached on the high ground. Can he be defended long enough to have a TP brought to him. Doesn't look like it.
I mean, he's healing up a lot from this. He is not going to die. Back up to full HP. And it looks like Mu and Chuan are going to try and defend their Oracle up on the high ground here. So, not bad. I mean, Fate's Edict is great for that.
Yeah, it's nice to have a ward. So, Kaka going to sit up there for a little while till the courier is able to go back and grab him a TP. But, you know, all the meanwhile, that's a very small investment from Wings Gaming, right? Like, the lasso was the biggest investment there, and that's off cooldown in 45 seconds. Meanwhile, Kaka can't do anything for what's going to end up having been about 120 seconds off that engagement. And Shadow's going to try and move around, walking right on top of a sentry that he now knows is there. Both teams kind of knowing the score at this point as we're moving toward the middle of the second night.
And I'm kind of thinking as I'm looking more at Newbee's draft, there's going to be this timing that Wings hit that's really strong before, or even around the time when Nightstalker Ags comes out, where they can probably continue to push it up towards high ground. And that's one of the problems that you have with Nightstalker in general as a hero, is that occasionally you get that Aghanim Scepter, but it's at a point where the vision advantage doesn't matter because they're knocking on your front door and going towards high ground. So it's something else to consider. I think Newbee are somewhat comfortable taking this into the late game against the Medusa, which is a little bit strange to say, but they need to be careful and make sure they don't get bursted down like Kaka and Chuan are about to, as they pull him back, and now they do have the stomp to try and counter-initiate, and it ends up being able to get his ultimate off, so still fine for the moment. Avalanche toss combo. Kaka still trying to stay alive through this, and ends up getting hit a couple quick times, and Ogre Magi finds the kill. The Midas picked up 14 minutes for the Nightstalker, but even still, with tier 1 towers down in bottom and mid, it feels like this might be coming on a little bit too late.
Yeah, it's just being really well executed on the timing windows here from Wings Gaming, especially considering as soon as they got that Shadow Blade on the Tiny, everybody got active, right? They didn't wait to get the Shadow Blade on Tiny, but still farmed the Medusa, waiting for her to finish off her Manta style, right? They group the Medusa up. They're willing to get the rest of that gold that she needs out of towers and apply the pressure. This is something that Wings Gaming do uniquely well out of teams in China and honestly out of a lot of teams in the world.
And I do kind of like the Medusa build here. It looks like it's going to be the Phase Yasha, and I'm assuming this is into Scotty. This is something that I've seen Blink do a couple of times, is just going for that maximum amount of DPS. He could still go back for Manta to deal with the Crippling Fear, but it is an option at least for him to go back for the Scotty if that's the way he wants to play this. And now, with the rotation in, Newbee, we'll see if they can find anybody, but there's not really any luck. They'll at least be able to get down a ward.
Yeah, they're going to smoke down here, but, you know, Medusa is just going to be split pushing up here in the top lane, and she's already gotten half of this tower by herself, with just the Bat Rider floating around in case there's a kill opportunity. They might be able to try and force a Roche engagement here, and that's exactly what Newbee are going to do.
I do like Moo's build. It's much more of the battle style of Alchemist that we've seen made a little bit of a comeback. Armlet as well as Medallion, he's pretty freaking tanky and does a lot of damage, particularly when that ultimate is all in use. But now moving in for a little bit of a play, Faith Beyond going to run in, and they do end up going up onto the high ground there. Roshan not down as of yet. KP pulled up to the high ground, and he's in a lot of trouble. He is going to fall there to the Medusa, and Mu trying to bring down Ice Ice gets disrupted. He's going to end up being able to survive through that. How brought down, going to get killed off, and meanwhile over on the other side, Shadow just destroying a mega kill streak, and Roshan is going to fall as Medusa picks up the Aegis. Disaster for Newbee in the river.
Yeah, just an absolute expert sort of bait there coming out of Ice Ice. Moving in, knowing exactly how long he's going to be able to survive. He gets that disruption off, maybe a little bit of luck on that play, but just generally speaking, he forced Newbee to engage where they really had no business engaging, thinking we can burst down the Shadow Demon first and open up the fight. It's actually going to be the Lincoln Sphere coming out here for Medusa. That will help against the Unstable Concoction as well as the Void Crippling Fear, but it is not going to help as much against just a lot of the general problems that Medusa is going to have if this game goes too late, meaning that somebody's going to lift the Lincoln Sphere, she's going to get sundered, and she's not going to have the base stats and the base intelligence to have the effective hit points that she needs to stay in the fight at that point. Whereas had she gotten the Scotty build that you were expecting,
Oh,
and you know,
too
you've
easy.
always got Shadow doing that.
The
He's 603 now, and he's got his Echo Saber up.
Echo Saber, and I mean, level 12, Shadow Blade, everything. He is really dominating this game so far, and Newbee just did not feel like they're completely ready. This is a very standard draft for them, but Wings being able to exploit it. As this game goes on, you still have to worry about the Hand of Midas on KP, and eventually Terrorblade getting his stuff, but it does very much feel like Wings are taking complete and total control over this game.
Yeah, part of the issue too is that Shadow's tiny. We haven't really talked about into the late game, but he's going for a ganking oriented build now. What happens when he starts to transition into a more traditional carry tiny, getting Ags, moving into Assault Cuirass, and is able to knock down towers by himself? We've said that Newbee maybe are going to be potentially okay going into the Medusa late, but into both Medusa and Tiny, like, these are two of the hardest late game carries available.
Yeah, and they just don't have answers either to allow them to really go for this. This, to me, it feels like, I mean, you've got 4 heroes that were rotating down there to take out the tier 1 tower in the bottom lane, and now Wings, so we're talking about knocking on the front door, they disrupt the Medusa, so 3 of them heading out there, and now you can start doing a decent chunk of damage with these illusions as well. This is a problem. Moo taking a ton of damage. He hits to back on out of there before he ends up just getting taken out, and actually might just die to those Manta-style, the illusions coming out. Oh, he's fine. This is scary.
Yeah.
Oh
but,
my god, and they keep doing it.
They can't do anything about this Medusa. They don't have any sort of control that they're going to be able to throw on her while she has that Lincoln's up. She's got the Aegis, so they can't engage on her anyway. They absolutely can't invest anything in knocking her down if she has that Aegis. So they have to wait for somebody in the back line to come too far forward. And it's just not happening.
Only 2-second downtime right here. Blink is still going to be pulled a little bit out of position, but all of these illusions are doing so much damage, and now they end up throwing out the Earth Splitter, trying to keep them back, but this is how you break a high ground nowadays. Moo is just taking so much from this, and Terrorblade trying to take a fight of his own, and maybe going to be able to make something happen here. Metamorphosis already popped, Sunder is available, but you can see the continuous disruption from Ice Ice. It's just increasing the DPS potential. GG gets called. They don't have an answer.
That was just so disciplined coming out of Wings Gaming. None of their heroes, none of their players went too far forward and got picked in that fight. Newbee, honestly, there was no answer for them. They had no course of action other than the one they did. Hope Wings Gaming get somebody from the back line too far forward that you can then pick and try to force an engagement off of the Medusa rather than onto the Medusa.
I mean, granted, this is not the type of game that you want to be getting into if you're a Newbee. This lineup is mainly about trying to fight early, but with the Shadow Demon disruptions and then Medusa, like, as soon as they were on the high, at least even close to the high ground, they were always going to be able to take it. So really, really well played. Hopefully this game next game ends up lasting a little bit longer as Wings Gaming take it 1-0 at the start. We'll be back in just a little bit with more from Nanyang. Stick around, everybody.